This is the story of the Donner Party, one of the darkest and most tragic chapters in American history. It is a tale of hope, ambition, and dreams of a new life in the West that slowly turned into a nightmare of hunger, snow, and death. Once you begin, you will want to hear every detail until the end. In the mid-1840s, thousands of families were moving westward in search of land and fortune. Among them was a group of pioneers led by George Donner and James Reed. They left Illinois in the spring of 1846, dreaming of California's golden promise. At first, their journey seemed like any other. They traveled in covered wagons, across endless plains, through rivers, and over dusty trails. Spirits were high, and the group grew to almost 90 people, united by hope. But fate took a cruel turn when they chose to follow the Hastings Cutoff. This new route was promised to be shorter and easier. Instead, it led them into deserts, mountains, and hardships beyond imagination. The shortcut across the Wasatch Mountains and Great Salt Lake Desert drained their strength. Wagons broke, animals died, and water became scarce. Each mile of the journey cost them dearly, but they pressed on, unaware of the horrors to come. By October 1846, the Donner Party reached the Sierra Nevada. They were only a few days away from California's fertile valleys. But the mountains rose before them, and with them came the snow. Early winter storms struck with brutal force. Within hours, heavy snow buried the passes, cutting off their route forward. The group was trapped, unable to move forward or back. They built makeshift shelters near Truckee Lake, later renamed Donner Lake. Families huddled together in cabins made of logs and branches. The cold was merciless, and the snow piled higher each day. At first, they survived on their supplies: flour, rice, beans, and the meat of their oxen. But as weeks passed, the food dwindled. Hunger grew into an endless torment. The children cried through the nights, their small bodies shivering in the freezing dark. Parents tried to comfort them, but their own faces grew hollow, their eyes lifeless with despair. The promise of California seemed like a cruel joke. By December, starvation drove them to desperation. A group of 15 set out on foot, known as the Forlorn Hope. They carried little food, hoping to cross the mountains and bring back help. They marched through waist-deep snow, their strength fading with every step. One by one, they collapsed, too weak to continue. Soon they faced an unbearable choice: eat the flesh of the dead, or perish with them. The survivors consumed their fallen companions. It was not a decision of savagery, but of desperation. They wept as they ate, knowing it was the only way to live. Back at the lake, the rest of the Donner Party endured their own slow torment. Leather, bones, and tree bark became their meals. The air was filled with silence, broken only by cries of hunger. Some died quietly in their cabins, others in the snow. The line between life and death blurred, and hope faded into shadows. The survivors began to wonder if they would ever see the sun again. The weeks dragged into months. Quarrels broke out among families, suspicion and anger replacing trust. Some accused others of hoarding food, while others prayed that rescue would come before madness consumed them all. George Donner himself grew ill with infection, too weak to lead. His wife Tamsin refused to abandon him, even when she had the chance to leave with rescuers. Her loyalty turned into legend, but it also sealed her tragic fate. In February 1847, the first relief party finally reached them. What rescuers found was beyond horror: gaunt figures with hollow eyes, clinging to life amid death and silence. The rescuers carried food and promised to return for those left behind. But the snow was so deep that only a few could be saved at a time. Each rescue came too late for many. By March, additional rescue groups struggled to fight their way back into the mountains. Some children were carried out on shoulders, crying for parents who would never follow. Others were left behind, waiting for help that never returned in time. By the end, only about half of the Donner Party survived. Of the nearly 90 who set out, 42 perished in the mountains. Their graves were shallow snowdrifts and frozen cabins. The story of the Donner Party spread across America. Some called it a tragedy of bad luck, others a warning of ambition and greed. But for those who survived, it was a wound that never healed. The mountains where they suffered still stand, silent witnesses to the nightmare. Travelers pass by Donner Lake, seeing only beauty, unaware of the ghosts beneath the snow. This is not just a story of hunger and death. It is a reminder of the thin line between civilization and survival, between hope and despair. It shows how far humans will go when trapped by nature's fury. The Donner Party's tragedy lives on as a dark chapter of the American frontier. It is the tale of a dream turned into a curse, of courage and desperation, of life and death in the frozen mountains. Even now, the name Donner echoes with both horror and fascination. It is the story of pioneers who sought a better life, but instead found only silence, snow, and shadows. Generations later, the Donner Party is remembered as both a warning and a legend. Their suffering became a symbol of the price of ambition, and the cruelty of the wilderness that swallowed them whole. And yet, there is also something hauntingly human in their story. A glimpse of the fragile thread of survival, of love, loyalty, and the will to live, even when the world itself seems determined to destroy you.